AITA for ending my marriage after my wife booked a cabin getaway with her ex. I'm David, 38, and I had been Rachel's husband for 6 years when she decided my problem was not the other man sitting at the edge of our marriage, but the fact that I could see him there. We had the kind of marriage where the bills were on auto pay. The same chipped blue mug was mine every morning, and most of our fights ended with one of us pretending the dishwasher was louder than it was. I loved her. I also spent way too long letting her convince me that having boundaries meant I was insecure. Rachel was 36, sharp, charming, and very good at making selfish choices sound emotionally evolved. That sounds harsh now, but for years I admired that about her. She could talk about ugly things in calm language. She could turn a tense room soft with one sentence. She could say, "I'm trying to be honest about my needs," and make you feel like disagreeing with her meant you were against honesty itself. Cole was her ex-husband. They had divorced before I met her, so at first he was just a name from an old chapter. He would pop up around birthdays, a random holiday text, once in a while when Rachel mentioned something from her past. She told me they had made peace, and I believed her because I wanted to be the kind of man who did not panic just because his wife had a past. Early in our marriage, when Cole texted, she would leave her phone on the table like it meant nothing. "Cole says Happy Thanksgiving," she'd say while passing me the potatoes. I would nod and say, "Tell him thanks." That was it. No weird silence. No phone flipping face down. No late-night calls from the bathroom. I didn't like him exactly, but I didn't see him as a threat. Rachel used to say, "It would be weird if I hated every person from my past," and I agreed with that. "I'm not asking you to hate him," I told her once. She smiled and kissed my cheek. "That's why I married you. You're not fragile." I remember that line because later she used a sharper version of it on me. The same trait she used to praise became the lever she pulled when she wanted me to be quiet. The shift was slow enough that I doubted myself at every step. Cole started texting more often. Not constantly, but enough that his name became part of the furniture of our marriage. His messages came late. His calls came when Rachel and I were already tense. His opinions somehow entered conversations he had no business being in. One night, Rachel's phone lit up on the nightstand at 12:40 a.m. I was half asleep, staring at the ceiling because we had argued about money earlier and never really resolved it. I saw Cole's name on the lock screen before she reached over and turned the phone face down. I didn't grab it. I didn't demand a password. I just said, "Does he need you at 12:40 in the morning?" Rachel sat up like I had accused her of something terrible. "He's having a rough week." "Okay, but does he need my wife in the middle of the night?" She gave a tired little laugh, the kind that was more insult than humor. "He needed someone who knows him. That's not a crime." No one said crime. You're doing that thing where you make a normal conversation sound like something it's not. I backed off because I didn't want to be the jealous husband in the story. I didn't want to be the guy who made a woman apologize for having history. I told myself mature people trusted each other. Mature people didn't count text messages. Mature people didn't flinch every time an ex's name appeared. Rachel knew that about me. She knew I wanted to be fair. And looking back, she used fairness like a leash. The next few months were full of small things that looked petty when I tried to describe them, but felt heavy when I was living them. Cole knew Rachel had been sick before I did. I found out because I came home with soup and medicine after Rachel had mentioned she felt a little off that morning. She was on the couch with a pharmacy bag already on the coffee table. "Oh," I said, setting my bag down. "You already went." "Cole had some extra flu stuff from last week," she said without looking up from her phone. "He dropped it off earlier." I stared at the bag. "Cole knew you were sick." I told him in passing. "You told him before you told me?" She looked up then. "David, I'm not required to report every sneeze to you first." "That's not what I said." "It's what you mean." Another time, Cole referenced an argument Rachel and I had about a large expense coming out of our shared account. He didn't say it to me directly. I heard Rachel on speaker while she was folding laundry in the bedroom, and his voice floated down the hallway. "He's probably just stressed about money," Cole said. "He always seemed like a spreadsheet guy." I walked into the room. Rachel immediately took him off speaker. "Why does your ex know about our bank argument?" I asked. Her face tightened. "Because I talked to someone who wouldn't turn every conversation into a courtroom. I'm your husband, and you're acting like a prosecutor." I stood there with a towel in my hands, feeling ridiculous. The towel was still warm from the dryer. She was folding one of my shirts. The whole scene looked too ordinary for the sentence she had just said. That was how most of our fights went. She would say something that cut deep, then keep doing a household chore like the cut had been imaginary. I tried to bring it up in calm ways. I really did. One Sunday afternoon, while rain tapped against the kitchen window, and we were both trapped inside doing chores, I said, "I need to talk about Cole." Rachel was folding laundry on the couch. She didn't even pause. "Of course you do. That right there is part of the problem." She dropped a shirt into the basket. "No, the problem is that you're threatened by an adult friendship. I'm asking for respect, not a password." "You say respect. What you mean is permission." "No. I mean maybe your ex shouldn't know details about our marriage before I know them. He knows me from before you. I don't have to erase my life to make you feel secure." "I'm not asking you to erase anything." "You are, though. You just know how to make it sound reasonable." That sentence worked on me for months. I would start with a real concern and end up apologizing for the tone I used to express it. Rachel would say I was policing her friendships. I would say I didn't want to police anything. She would say, "Then stop acting like Cole is a threat." And somehow, by the end, I'd be the one saying, "I'm sorry. I'll try not to make it a thing." The worst part is that I did have moments of jealousy. I'm not going to pretend I was some marble statue of perfect emotional health. I hated seeing his name light up her phone. I hated knowing he could make her laugh at midnight after she had barely spoken to me at dinner. I hated that I could feel myself becoming suspicious. Once, after she canceled plans with me to help Cole through something, I snapped. "You canceled on your husband to emotionally babysit your ex." Rachel looked at me like I had confirmed every bad thing she believed about me. "That sentence," she said quietly, "is exactly why I can't talk to you." She left anyway. We had planned to spend that Saturday fixing up the spare room, sorting boxes we had ignored for 2 years, maybe ordering takeout after. Instead, I stood in the kitchen with half-packed grocery bags while she changed clothes and put on perfume. "For Cole," I asked before I could stop myself. She turned around slowly. "For myself." I knew I had stepped wrong, and she knew it too. For the next week, every time I raised anything about boundaries, she reached back to that line and slapped it on the table. "You accused me of dressing for another man." I said something stupid because I was hurt. "No, you said what you believed." That was our pattern. My worst sentence became evidence. Her repeated choices became context. Aaron was the first person who told me I was losing myself. Aaron had been my best friend long enough to know when I was cleaning up a story to make someone else look better. I called him from my parked car one night because I didn't want Rachel to hear me. The windshield was fogged at the edges. I had driven around for 20 minutes with no real destination, just to calm down. I told him about the late texts, the canceled plans, the way Rachel kept saying I was controlling. He listened without interrupting. Then he said, "A boundary is not control just because she hates the boundary." I rubbed my eyes. I don't want to be that guy. What guy? The jealous guy? The insecure husband? The one who can't handle that his wife had a life before him? David, you are not asking her to burn old photos. You're asking her ex not to be the third vote in your marriage. I didn't answer. Aaron went on. "Write things down. Not like a crazy manifesto. Just dates. What happened? What was said? You have a habit of folding when someone calls you controlling. I'm trying to keep the peace. You're teaching her what word makes you drop your own judgment." I hated hearing it because I knew he was right. Around that time, Rachel's friend Tara started making comments that told me Rachel was already telling the story outside our home. Tara and I were never close, but we were polite. She was Rachel's friend first, the kind of friend who sent voice notes instead of texts and remembered every minor emotional detail. One evening, Rachel had Tara on speaker while they were talking about dinner plans. I walked through the kitchen to refill my water, and Tara said, "Tell David I said hi." "Hi, Tara," I said. There was a pause. Then Tara added, "And tell him Rachel shouldn't have to shrink her friendships to make anyone comfortable." Rachel quickly took the phone off speaker. I stood by the sink holding my glass. Is that what she thinks is happening? Rachel's jaw tightened. She's worried about me. Because of what you told her? Because she knows me. No, I said. She knows your version. Rachel's eyes flashed. You don't get to isolate me from my support system and then complain when they support me. That word, isolate, landed like a trapdoor opening under my feet. I had never told her not to see Tara. I had never asked her to stop talking to her friends. But Rachel had chosen language that made me sound dangerous. I should have paid more attention to that. Instead, I tried counseling. It was my idea at first, though Rachel later told people it had been hers. We had one decent session where the counselor asked us each to define trust without using insults. That was the first time I saw Rachel struggle to make her position sound reasonable in front of a neutral person. I need David to understand that mature relationships don't depend on controlling who someone talks to, Rachel said. The counselor, a calm woman with silver hoops and a notebook balanced on her knee, nodded. Can you define what control means in this specific situation? Rachel blinked, making me feel guilty for talking to Cole. The counselor looked at me. David, what boundary are you asking for? I said, I don't want private late-night emotional conversations with her ex about our marriage. I don't want him knowing our conflicts before we have resolved them. And I don't want concerns about that treated like character flaws. Rachel crossed her arms. So rules. The counselor said, boundaries and rules can overlap in language, but the difference is what happens when they are not respected. David can't control what you do. He can decide what he will stay in. Rachel didn't like that. I could feel it in the air beside me. After the session, she was quiet in the car. I thought maybe she was processing. Then she said, I don't think she gets modern friendships. That was when I knew counseling would only help if Rachel wanted it to. And Rachel wanted validation, not a mirror. The lease renewal pressure started 2 weeks before the cabin. Our lease was coming up. The property office had emailed both of us renewal documents with a modest increase and a deadline. Rachel became strangely urgent about it. We should get this handled before it turns into another debate, she said one morning while pouring coffee. I looked up from my blue mug. The lease. Yes, we need to secure our future. There was something about the phrase that made me set my mug down. What future are we securing exactly? She rolled her eyes. Our housing, David. Not everything is a therapy exercise. I didn't say it was. You're making everything heavy lately. Later that day, she forwarded me the property office email again, then sent a separate text. Rachel, please don't drag your feet on this. Adult couples handle responsibilities even when things are tense. I stared at the message for a while before replying. David, I'll review it. Rachel, review it or punish me with uncertainty. David, review it. She sent a thumbs-up emoji, which somehow felt colder than a paragraph. At the same time, she was pushing other future payments. A furniture order we had discussed, but not finalized. A weekend reservation for a couple's event months away. Renewing an annual membership we barely used. She framed all of it as normal married life admin. Can we not freeze our life because you're upset? She asked. I'm not freezing our life. I'm asking why you want everything locked in right now. Because I'm tired of feeling like I live in emotional limbo. The irony almost made me laugh. The cabin reservation appeared on a Wednesday night. I remember the sound first. Paper sliding across the kitchen counter while I rinsed my mug. Rachel had printed it out, which was odd because she almost never printed anything. She stood on the other side of the island with her arms crossed, wearing the soft voice she used when she wanted to sound brave instead of cruel. I'm telling you before you hear it from someone else, she said. I dried my hands on a towel. Hear what? She pushed the paper closer. It was a cabin reservation. 2 nights. Friday check-in. Sunday late checkout. Refundable deposit. A note about a fireplace. There was a rental car add-on listed as pending and a small charge I didn't recognize. Guest name, Rachel. Second guest, Cole. For a second, my brain did the stupid human thing where it tried to make the words mean something else. Why is Cole on a cabin reservation? I asked. Rachel took a breath like she had prepared for this. We need closure. I looked at her. You and Cole have been divorced for years. I know that. So why does closure need a cabin? Her expression hardened, but her voice stayed soft. Because adults can talk without turning everything into sex. I didn't say sex. You implied it. No. I asked why my wife is spending 2 nights in a cabin with her ex-husband. It's not some romantic getaway. It's neutral ground. A hotel conference room is neutral ground. A coffee shop is neutral ground. A cabin with late checkout is not neutral ground. She shook her head like she was disappointed in a child. This is exactly why I didn't tell you earlier. That sentence hit me harder than the reservation. Earlier, I asked. She pressed her lips together. Rachel, when did Cole know about this? That's not the point. It is absolutely the point. He's part of the conversation, so yes, he knew before you. I laughed once. Not because anything was funny. It just escaped. She leaned forward slightly. I need closure, and I need a partner mature enough to understand that. Closure from what? Our history. You're married to me, and I'm trying to make sure my past isn't still taking up space. It is taking up space because you keep inviting it over. Her eyes narrowed. Either trust me with my ex this weekend, or admit you're not secure enough for this marriage. The kitchen went quiet. The dishwasher hummed beside us. My blue mug sat upside down in the drying rack. Her printed reservation lay between us like a legal notice for a marriage I didn't realize had already been served. I didn't yell. I didn't call her names. I didn't ask if she was cheating. I didn't ask what bed arrangement they had because I already knew she would treat the question like proof of my sickness. I just looked at her for a long moment and felt something inside me stop negotiating. Then we're done pretending, I said. She blinked. Excuse me. You're right. We should stop pretending we want the same marriage. She gave a small, sharp laugh. So you're going to make this ugly? No. I'm going to make it clear. You're really proving my point. Maybe. That threw her off. She expected me to defend myself. She expected the old loop where she said insecure, and I rushed to prove I wasn't. Instead, I picked up the reservation, took a photo of it with my phone, and set it back down. Rachel watched me. What are you doing? Remembering what you asked me to accept. She snatched the paper off the counter. You don't get to build a case against me because I'm being transparent. You told Cole before me. I told you now. You told me after it was booked. You are impossible. No. I'm tired. For the first time that night, her confidence flickered. It only lasted a second. Then she said, if you make this ugly, don't expect me to come home acting like nothing happened. I nodded. I don't expect that. She went to bed angry. I slept on the couch, though slept is too generous a word. Mostly I stared at the dark ceiling and replayed the conversation in pieces. At 2:13 a.m., I opened the notes app and wrote down every line I could remember. Not because I wanted to win, because Aaron's voice was in my head. Write things down. You have a habit of folding. The next morning, Rachel moved around the apartment like she was in a silent movie. Coffee, shower, closet, suitcase, wheels clicking over the floor. She had packed before telling me. That small fact bothered me almost as much as the trip. At the door, she paused with her hand on the suitcase handle. I hope you use this weekend to think about why this threatens you, she said. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my mug. I heard the choice you gave me, I said. Her mouth tightened. That's not an answer. It is. She left. The door clicked shut with a clean final sound. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes, listening to nothing. Then my phone buzzed. Rachel, I'm disappointed you turned this into control. I typed 3 different responses and deleted all of them. Finally, I wrote, David, I heard the choice you gave me. She didn't reply. I called Aaron first. He picked up on the second ring. What happened? I told him. He was quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Do not call him. Do not threaten her. Do not send her one of those midnight essays you write when you're trying to be understood. I wasn't planning to. You were thinking about it. I looked at the half-written note on my phone and hated him for knowing me. Maybe. Don't. She gave you an ultimatum and left. You can be angry later. Right now be clean. Clean. Facts. Money. Lease. Documents. What can she twist? What can you protect? Start there. I leaned back in the chair. This feels insane. No, Aaron said. Competing with her ex would be insane. You're not competing with a ghost. You're deciding what you will sign. After I hung up, I called my younger sister, Leah. Leah had never loved Rachel the way Aaron tried to. She was polite to her, but she always said Rachel spoke like a podcast with a knife. I used to tell her she was being unfair. That morning, when I explained the cabin, Leah didn't even curse. That was how I knew she was truly angry. She didn't ask you to trust her, Leah said. She asked you to ignore yourself. She says nothing is happening. Maybe nothing physical happens. That's not the only way to betray someone. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. I don't want to overreact. An ultimatum is not a request, David. It's already a decision. I wrote that down too. By noon Friday, I had started a clean timeline. Not dramatic. No insults. Just dates, times, and evidence. Cole late-night texts visible on lock screen. Rachel said rough week. Cole knew about money argument. Rachel said he doesn't turn every conversation into courtroom. Tara comment about shrinking friendships. Indicates outside narrative. Counseling appointment scheduled, later canceled. Lease renewal pressure began before cabin weekend. Cabin reservation shown Wednesday night. Cole knew before me. Rachel ultimatum. Rachel left Friday morning. I felt stupid writing it out. Then I felt less stupid as the pattern stared back at me. The practical stuff came next. I opened our banking app and checked shared charges. Rent and utilities came out of the shared account. I didn't touch any of that. I wasn't trying to strand her or create some revenge fantasy where I cut off necessities. But I had one individual credit card where Rachel was an authorized user. It was mine from before the marriage. She used it for convenience because the rewards were good, and I paid the balance. There was a pending hold I didn't recognize. The merchant name matched the cabin reservation. It wasn't the whole booking, just an add-on hold connected to the late checkout and rental-related deposit. She had apparently used her card for the main reservation and mine for part of the extras, maybe because it was saved in the travel account we had used before. I sat there looking at the charge, and a cold sentence formed in my head. She wanted me mature enough to accept the trip and useful enough to subsidize it. I called the card company. I didn't dispute legitimate shared household charges. I didn't claim fraud where there might have been a saved payment method. I simply removed Rachel as an authorized user on my individual card and asked them to block new charges from any saved digital wallets tied to her device. Then I opened a separate checking account for my own income going forward. I left enough in the shared account to cover rent, utilities, groceries, and anything already owed. I downloaded statements. I made a folder on my laptop called Separation Admin, which made my stomach twist every time I saw it. I also changed the password on the streaming account I alone paid for. It was a small thing. Petty maybe. But after years of being told every boundary was control, even changing a password felt like taking my hand back from a hot stove. Then I emailed the property office. Hello. Please note that I will not be signing the lease renewal documents scheduled for Monday while my marital situation is unresolved. Please confirm that no renewal will be processed without both signatures. Thank you. David. I read it 5 times to make sure there was no anger in it. No accusation. No story. Just facts. An hour later, the property manager replied. No problem. No renewal can be processed without both signatures. We can keep Monday's appointment or cancel it. Please let us know how you would like to proceed. I saved the email as a PDF. At 4:37 p.m., Rachel texted. Rachel, did you seriously mess with my card while I'm away? I stared at the message, almost impressed by the phrasing. My card had become her card in one sentence. David, I removed you from my individual card. Use your own. Rachel, unbelievable. David, shared necessities are still covered. Rachel, you are punishing me. David, I am not funding optional expenses for the weekend you chose. Rachel, this is financial control. David, no. It's a boundary with my own account. She stopped replying for a while. Then Cole texted me. I had never texted with Cole directly except once years earlier about a delivery. His name appearing on my phone made my whole body go still. Cole, hey David. I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything, but Rachel is upset. She said you two were already separated. Is that not true? I read it 3 times. Then I took a screenshot before answering. David, no. She left for this trip from our shared place this morning. The typing dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Cole, she made it sound like you were both just waiting on paperwork. David, that paperwork was apparently news to me. Cole, she said you knew where things stood and that this weekend was about seeing if old feelings still meant anything before she made final decisions. My hand tightened around the phone. So to me, the trip was closure. To Cole, it was an audition. To Rachel's friends, apparently, it was proof I couldn't handle adult friendship. I typed carefully. David. She told me it was closure and said accepting it was a test of whether I was secure enough for the marriage. Cole didn't reply for nearly 10 minutes. Then, Cole, that is not what she told me. I didn't ask what they were doing. I didn't ask where they were sleeping. I didn't threaten him. I just saved the messages. Cole sent one more text. Cole, I'm not trying to be in your marriage. I almost laughed. David, you are in my marriage. Whether you meant to be or not. He didn't respond. That night, Tara texted me. Tara, I don't know what Rachel told you, but threatening your wife over a friendship is not okay. I sat on the couch with my laptop open, the apartment too quiet around me. Rachel's throw blanket was still folded over the armchair. Her water glass was still by the sink. Everything looked like she might walk in any second and call me dramatic. David, what did she tell you? Tara, that you're trying to punish her because she's taking space to have a conversation with someone who matters to her past. David, did she tell you it was a 2-night cabin trip with Cole? No response for 3 minutes. Tara, she said it was a retreat-style place with separate rooms. That was new. David, did she tell you she told Cole we were basically separated? Tara, what? David, ask her. I'm noticing different versions. Tara didn't answer after that. The next morning, I found the counseling cancellation in my email. The appointment had been scheduled for Saturday afternoon, a follow-up from our first session. Rachel had canceled it on Monday. The cancellation note from the counselor's office was polite. Rachel let us know this weekend no longer works for you both. Please contact us to reschedule. Rachel hadn't told me. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee cooling in front of me, staring at that email. She had canceled the one room where we were supposed to talk honestly so she could rent another room with her ex. That was the moment the grief changed shape. Up until then, I had been bracing for betrayal. After that, I understood betrayal had already happened in the planning. I contacted a legal office that Aaron recommended. I didn't get a lawyer immediately that day, just an assistant named Marcy who walked me through scheduling a consultation and sending basic documents ahead of time. We can start with financial disclosures and temporary agreements, she said. Her voice was kind but efficient, like she dealt with people in shock every day, and new practical words helped more than sympathy. It sounds cold, I said. It's paperwork, she replied. Paperwork is useful when emotions are not. I appreciated that more than she probably knew. I spent Saturday sorting through documents. Passport, tax returns, insurance paperwork, lease copies, bank statements. I put them in a box labeled documents because I did not trust myself with dramatic labels. Another box became kitchen, another winter clothes. I wasn't moving everything yet, but I took what I needed to keep safe and brought it to Aaron's place temporarily. Aaron opened the door, saw the boxes, and said, "Good. Good. You didn't wait for her to come home and explain your reality back to you." I carried the document box inside. I feel like I'm overreacting. You always feel like that right before you stop underreacting. Sunday afternoon, Rachel came home. She texted first. "Rachel, we need to talk like adults when I get back." I didn't answer. The door opened a little after 5. She came in with her suitcase, cheeks flushed from the cold air, hair pulled back, expression set. She looked tired but not sorry. The first thing she said was, "Nothing happened." I was standing by the kitchen island. The same counter. The same place where she had slid the reservation toward me. "That doesn't fix what did happen," I said. She dropped her bag near the door. "You're really going to do this?" I already emailed the property office. Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "I'm not signing the lease renewal." For a second, she just stared at me. Then she laughed like I had made an absurd joke. Adult couples do not blow up housing over a fight. This isn't a fight. It is exactly a fight. You're angry because I refuse to let you control me. No, I'm done signing my future to someone who spent the weekend testing her past. Her face changed, just a little. Not guilt. Calculation. "You talked to Cole," she said. "He texted me." "Of course he did," she muttered. "What did you tell him?" She lifted her chin. "I told him we were having problems." "You told him we were basically separated." "That's not a lie emotionally." I actually had to look away for a second. "Emotionally?" I said. "You've been checked out for months. I've been asking for boundaries for months. You've been making me feel trapped for months. Rachel, you canceled counseling to go to a cabin with your ex." Her mouth opened, then closed. I nodded. I saw the email. She recovered quickly. "Because counseling was turning into a place where you could make me the villain." "No, it was turning into a place where someone asked you to define your words." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You're making this uglier than it has to be." "No, I'm making it harder to lie about." That was the first time she looked scared. Not devastated. Not remorseful. Scared. She had assumed I would be hurt, angry, maybe jealous. She had not assumed I would be organized. Monday morning, she insisted we still go to the lease appointment. "I'm not having our housing situation handled through some email," she said while applying mascara in the bathroom mirror. "We are going in person. I already told you I'm not signing. And I'm telling you we're going to have an adult conversation with the property manager about options." I leaned against the doorframe. "This isn't a mediation session." "No, it's paperwork." which you are using to punish me. I almost said no again, then stopped. Maybe there was value in having a neutral witness. Maybe I needed to watch myself say it out loud somewhere outside our kitchen. So I went. The property office was painfully ordinary. Beige chairs, a fake plant in the corner, a bowl of wrapped mints on the desk, a printer whining somewhere in the back. Rachel sat beside me with her purse in her lap and her shoulders straight, performing calm so hard I could practically hear the effort. The property manager, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain, greeted us politely. She had no interest in our marriage. She cared about signatures, dates, and whether people understood the lease terms. I have the renewal packet here, she said, placing the papers on the desk. As I mentioned by email, no renewal will be processed without both signatures. Rachel reached for the pen first. She didn't look at me. That small gesture told me everything. She still believed I would follow. I said, I won't be signing. Rachel froze with the pen in her hand. The property manager paused. All right. Rachel turned toward me slowly. David, I won't be signing anything that ties my future to someone who spent the weekend testing her past. Her face flushed. Are you serious right now? Yes. She glanced at the property manager, then back at me, lowering her voice. Can we not perform our issues in front of strangers? Then don't ask me to sign a lie in front of one. The property manager looked down at the papers, clearly wishing she could evaporate. Rachel's voice sharpened. You're punishing me because you're insecure. I opened the folder I had brought. Not dramatically, just enough to pull out the email confirmation and the printed timeline. I didn't show private photos. I didn't show anything intimate. I showed only what mattered. No, I said, I'm protecting myself because you were dishonest. Rachel laughed, but it cracked halfway through. Dishonest? I told you where I was. I looked at her. You told me closure. You told Cole separation. You told Tara control. Which version were you planning to sign the lease under? The room went silent. The property manager slowly set her pen down. Rachel's eyes darted to the papers. You had no right to drag Tara into this. I didn't. She texted me because of what you told her. You're twisting private conversations. Cole asked me why I didn't know we were separated. The color drained from her face. Right then, as if the universe had a cruel sense of timing, Rachel's phone rang. Cole's name appeared on the screen. She grabbed it too fast and hit answer, probably intending to silence it, but the sound connected through her car Bluetooth still linked to her earbuds in her purse. His voice came out loud enough for all three of us to hear. Rachel, why is David saying you two weren't separated? The property manager looked away immediately. Rachel stabbed at the phone. Cole, not now. But Cole kept going, voice tense. You told me he knew. You said you were both basically done. Rachel ended the call. Nobody moved. I said, that's a good question. Rachel stared at me with pure hatred for about 2 seconds. Then she switched faces, the way she always did when anger wouldn't serve her. This is private, she said. It was private until you tried to turn it into paperwork. The property manager cleared her throat softly. We can pause this appointment. There's nothing to pause, I said. I'm not renewing. Rachel turned on her. Can he just do that? The manager stayed professional. No renewal will be processed without both signatures. We can discuss separate options if one tenant intends to vacate at the end of the current term, but I can't advise either of you personally. Rachel looked at me again. You're throwing away 6 years. No, I said. I'm refusing to sign a 7th under false terms. I signed only the documents that confirmed I was not renewing and requested information about move-out procedures. The manager emailed copies to both of us before we left. For the first time in months, my signature felt like it belonged to me. The fallout was not explosive in a movie way. There were no screaming relatives, no dramatic public posts that brought everyone to their knees. It was quieter than that, and honestly, more satisfying. Tara called me that evening. I owe you an apology, she said. I was standing in Aaron's kitchen, eating takeout from a cardboard container because I hadn't had the energy to cook. For what? For repeating Rachel's version without asking questions. I didn't say it was okay. It wasn't. Tara continued. She made it sound like you threatened her because she texted an old friend. She left out the cabin. And Cole. And the separation part. I figured. There was a pause. She said the weekend would show you that you couldn't control her. I closed my eyes. That was the sentence that tied it together. The cabin had never been just closure. It was a test I had not agreed to take. Rachel wanted to prove that any boundary I held could be reframed as control, and if I stayed, she won. If I left, she could say I abandoned the marriage. Either way, she planned to keep the story. She just didn't plan for me to keep receipts. Cole backed away by Tuesday. He sent me one last message. Cole, I didn't know she was telling different stories. I'm sorry for my part in it. I didn't respond right away. An apology from Cole was not exactly healing. He had enjoyed being needed. He had accepted a cabin weekend with a married woman. He had believed a version of reality that made him important because it suited him. But he had also been lied to. Later I heard from Tara that Cole told Rachel, I'm not your escape plan, and I'm not your threat. He blocked her for a while after that. Not because he had suddenly become noble, because Rachel had turned him from the romantic alternative into evidence. That was karma enough. Rachel, meanwhile, cycled through every version of herself. First she was furious. Rachel, you humiliated me at the office. David, no. I refused to sign. Rachel, you showed private messages. David, I showed contradictions that affected legal paperwork. Rachel, you wanted an audience. David, I wanted a witness. Then she was wounded. Rachel, I can't believe you would end our marriage over nothing. David, it wasn't nothing. Rachel, nothing happened. David, you keep saying that like lying in 3 directions is nothing. Then she tried soft nostalgia. Rachel, I keep thinking about our first apartment and how happy we were. David, I remember. Rachel, doesn't that matter? David, it matters. It doesn't change this. Then she tried therapy language again. Rachel, you are making a permanent decision from a triggered place. David, I made it from a documented place. After that, I stopped responding directly except for logistics. Marcy, the legal assistant, sent over an intake packet. I scheduled the consultation. We started with basic separation paperwork, temporary financial agreements, and a plan to untangle accounts. It was not instant. It was not clean. There were awkward calls, forms I didn't understand, and nights where I sat surrounded by boxes wondering how my life had become labels and PDFs. I lost money. Of course I did. Separation is expensive even when nobody is trying to be cruel. There were fees, duplicate deposits, moving costs, small charges tied to old shared services. But I kept shared essentials covered until our obligations were formally separated. I didn't sabotage rent. I didn't empty the shared account. I didn't make some grand revenge move that would feel good for 10 minutes and cost me later. I cut what I could legally control. My individual card. My future signature. My optional payments. My participation in the lie. That was enough. Rachel hated the phrase, future signature. She said it sounded cold. Maybe it was cold. But warmth had been used against me for a long time. 2 weeks after the lease office appointment, we did a key handoff in a grocery store parking lot. It was not cinematic. The sky was gray. Someone's cart kept rolling into the curb with a dull metallic clack. I had a box in my trunk labeled Rachel, Kitchen/Miscellaneous. She had a small tote with my old hoodie, a phone charger, and the spare key I had been asking for since I moved my documents out. I texted before getting out of the car. David, I'm here. 3:12 p.m. blue entrance side. Rachel replied from 3 parking spaces away. Rachel, I see you. I kept that text. Timestamp. Location description. No drama. She walked over wearing sunglasses even though there was no sun. She looked thinner. Or maybe I was just seeing her without the old filter. I handed her the box. She handed me the tote. For a second, neither of us moved. You needed to win, she said. I almost laughed, but I didn't. She still needed me to be small enough for her sentence. No, I said. I needed to stop funding a marriage where I was the backup plan. Her mouth trembled, and for a moment I saw the woman I had married. Not the arguments, not the cabin, not the manipulation. Just Rachel, standing in a parking lot with 6 years between us. Nothing happened with Cole, she said quietly. I believed that she wanted me to believe it. I even believed it might be true, physically. But by then, the physical details felt like the wrong courtroom. The trip was one choice, I said. The lies were another. The lease was another. She wiped under one eye, angry at the tear more than the sadness. You're really not coming back from this. No. You don't even want to try? I tried when I asked for boundaries. I tried when I asked for counseling. I tried when I told you Cole was becoming a problem. You called all of that control. She looked away. I said, you told me to decide if I could live with it. I decided I couldn't. She didn't answer. I got back in my car and left before the conversation could become another loop. The separation moved forward. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but clearly. The lease ended. I found another place to live without making it part of my identity. Rachel found her own arrangement, though Tara later told me it was not the one Rachel had expected. Cole did not take her in. He did not become the sweeping second-chance romance she had kept polished in the background. He became cautious, then distant, then gone. Tara stayed friendly with Rachel, but not blindly. She sent me one more message a month later. Tara, I'm sorry again. I don't like being used as a witness for a story I didn't know was incomplete. David, I appreciate that. That was all. Aaron helped me move the last of my boxes. Leah came over the first night after everything was official and stocked my fridge like I was a college freshman. She put eggs, coffee, sandwich meat, and a ridiculous amount of sparkling water in there. You eat like grief has a meal plan, she said. I've been busy. You've been sad. I can be both. She hugged me then, hard enough that I almost broke. The first morning in the new place, I made coffee in the chipped blue mug. For 6 years, that mug had been part of a shared routine. Rachel used to joke that it was ugly and should have been retired. I kept it because it fit my hand. That morning, it sat alone on the counter, no second cup beside it, no phone lighting up with someone else's name, no argument waiting in the next room. It didn't feel triumphant. It felt quiet. But it was an honest quiet. And after living in a marriage where silence had become the place truth went to suffocate, honest quiet felt like breathing. Rachel tried once more through email a few months later. David, I know things got messy. I still believe we let fear and pride make decisions for us. I need you to understand that nothing physical happened that weekend. I needed closure. I handled it badly, but you reacted like I had already betrayed you. I hope one day you can see that I was trying to be honest in the only way I knew how. Rachel, I read it twice. Then I sent it to my attorney and replied only through the proper channel. Rachel, David will continue communicating only on remaining separation logistics. Regarding your statement, the issue was not limited to whether anything physical occurred. The cabin weekend, the conflicting statements to David, Cole, and Tara, the canceled counseling appointment, and the attempted lease renewal are sufficient grounds for David's decision to proceed. Please direct future practical matters through this office. It sounded sterile. It sounded cold. It also sounded like the first version of the story that did not bend around Rachel's feelings. The divorce process took longer than I wanted, cost more than I hoped, and hurt in strange little places I didn't expect. A forwarded insurance notice. A subscription renewal addressed to both of us. Finding an old grocery list in a jacket pocket with Rachel's handwriting on it. Real life does not become clean just because you finally make one clear decision. But the clarity held. Rachel could tell people I was insecure. She could say I gave up. She could say I blew up our life over a conversation. I couldn't control that. I never could. What I could control was what I signed. What I funded. What I accepted as normal. For years, I thought being a good husband meant proving I was calm enough to tolerate discomfort. Then Rachel placed a cabin reservation on our counter and called it maturity. She told me to decide whether I could live with it. So I did. I didn't follow her. I didn't beg Cole to disappear. I didn't scream in the driveway or write some public rant. I simply stopped participating in a future that required me to distrust myself. She told me to decide if I could live with it. I decided I couldn't, and for once I didn't apologize for choosing myself. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.